Welcome to the Get Your Act Together podcast. I am your host, and today I have another guest on our agency series, and I am super excited about this. Welcome, Luisa.
Hello, Kelly. I'm so excited to be here.
Luisa and I just met very recently because a past guest, Rachel Pereira, introduced us, and we got on a coffee chat, and we hit it off so much that then we wanted to do a podcast interview because we just want to keep talking to each other. So Luisa, tell everyone all about you. What do you do? Where are you?
Yeah, totally. So I'm in San Francisco, California, so the other side of the country from where Kelly is. But I am the CEO of People First Finance, and we are a financial services agency by women for women. So our special sauce is handling all things finance. So from bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and advisory services for agency owners and service providers who are basically at that $250,000 in annual revenue mark and scaling to 7 figures plus. So we're really an outsourced solution for folks at that stage because we all know, or some of us know, how wild that stage of growth, that messy middle is. And so we come in and try to sort of make sense of the chaos. And I think that's why we're kindred spirits, Kelly.
Yes, we make sense of different kinds of chaos, but yes, very much the same, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of overlap there for sure.
And I love this idea of you working with women agencies. Obviously, we're very agency focused here. But I love that because women are usually told they don't know anything about anything, number one, but they don't definitely know anything about money. Me with my background on Wall Street, like I obviously didn't know enough or as much as the boys knew. So I love that this is like a focused place where you can explain things and show them things and they don't feel dumb, because so many people are scared of numbers and they're scared of feeling dumb.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I don't have a traditional accounting background. And so I think that's really what sets me and my agency apart is that, I grew up also being told, like, you're an artist. My mother's an artist. I gravitated towards like English and art that just felt easy. But then I have this like memory in the back of my head, actually, of the middle school chemistry. And like I actually applied myself for once, like studied for this test and like tried to figure it out because I was like, wait a minute, can this be that hard? And I aced it. And that like sticks with me. I'm like, I should have followed that path because that felt really good. But anyway, the world was like, you're an artist. And I think my guidance counselor said, you should be a physical therapist. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I do sports. Like, it was just like wild messaging. And so I went to Boston College and I studied philosophy, and I really loved philosophy. And but there was also the business track, and the way that Boston College is set up, there's all these like very specific, and all the finance people in the finance school were like men, who were top students who got really good grades. Like there were very few women, I remember thinking, in that school. And it really struck me. But I didn't identify with it. Right. Like at that time, I personally didn't identify with it. I felt like I was doing the right thing. So to come now full circle and be in the world of finance is just like, it's been a wild ride, honestly.
It's so funny. And I came from like Wall Street background, not accounting background. So like I was trading, I was doing operations, that kind of thing. So I can't pick your 401k. Like everyone asks me, I'm like, I have no idea. I avoided that like the plague. But like having that background and then coming into this online world, and I would talk about numbers because, it's super important to know what's going on and know if you're making money and all that stuff. And the people that I would talk to, they would make this face, like a pained face, like, please don't talk about numbers. Please, please, please stop it. Like, please, I don't want to know about it. And I was like, oh, we don't talk about numbers here because it's so scary. So I love that. I love that this is your focus. And I think you are doing great work.
Thank you. I like to think so too. If we can just get more women to understand sort of the value of investing in building the skill of financial literacy. And as business owners, there's just a basic foundational knowledge that you must acquire in order to build and grow a sustainable, profitable business. And I think the sooner we all accept that, the sooner we can make decisions to educate ourselves and put ourselves within the care of service providers who are more educators and less sort of like demanding prescriptive experts.
Yeah, because I think some people just think it's super complicated and it's just scary because of that. So having
Yeah.
someone like walking them through it, I also find a lot because I will talk about numbers all day. I will talk about how much I make over Christmas dinner, much to my husband's chagrin. Like it doesn't bother me whatsoever. You know what I
I
mean?
love it. Yeah.
Like my grandmother and I am like talking about like, revenue numbers for the month and she's so proud of me. And he's like, really? Um, and I'm wondering, do you run into a lot of just the mindset of like, I shouldn't make money? Like it's not, if I'm not a good person if I make money, even though I'm in business, which is the whole point is to make money. Like, I feel like I run into that. Is that a thing you see a lot?
I see it in people who have that subconscious belief. So it's not at the forefront, but it shows up in things like concern about taxes and having this connection between if I make more money, I pay more in taxes. So I don't want to make more money because I don't want to pay more in taxes. Like
That's
there's this
interesting.
weird subconscious thinking we have. And really what we need to be thinking is and then there's the other flip side of the coin, which is like if you're making a lot of money and you're paying a lot in taxes, that's success. And it's like I kind of think there's a middle ground. You can be really strategic and smart about how you leverage your money. That's really where I come in and what my passion is in helping people to manage, like be really thoughtful stewards of the money that comes into our lives because we're out there searching for more and more and more and more and more. And then we have all of these, messages around more being, bad. And so we struggle in that. And it's like, well, the messaging doesn't necessarily need to relate to more. It's the how. It's the how are you taking care of what you have? How are you making what you have enough? How are you setting yourself up so that what you have lasts longer? Those sorts of
Yeah.
ways of thinking about money, I think, are more like feminine energy ways to think about money, like not to be gender specific, but it's a softer way of thinking about money.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that I always think, what would we do if a whole bunch of good people had tons of money? Like, what are
Yeah.
the wonderful things that could be accomplished? Right? So, like,
Yeah.
knowing what you can do with that money, you can save all the puppies you wanted. You know what I mean? Like, you could give
Yes.
all the dog food to every shelter in the world, right? Like, wouldn't it be wonderful? You could do everything you wanted, or whatever you wanted, Um, and then learning how to be self-sufficient. I think for a lot of women, being able to take care of themselves and their children is a huge thing. It was when I was a kid. My mom was a single mom. Like, that was always a worry. So like being able to learn how to do things and be able to take care of yourself and then build this business and like that's pretty rocking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Well,
awesome.
totally. And actually, part of my story and why I even was motivated to learn about personal finance, business finance, was because I found myself in a very difficult situation when I was pregnant with my daughter. I live in San Francisco. I have rent control. I've been in the same apartment, this beautiful 3-bedroom apartment in like the heart of the Mission District for the
Oh,
past,
wow.
you know, 15 years. And I was pregnant with my daughter, and the building owners were like, hey, we're sorry to say this, but I think we're going to move a family member into your unit. We wanted to give you a heads up, but we're going to, that's an eventual thing that's going to happen. And I freaked out because I didn't have the
Yeah.
financial resources, to move into another apartment at that time. But I really wanted to stay put. And so it was the scary moment where I was like, wow, Louisa, you really need to get your act together. Like you really need to figure out this finance thing because the stress of that situation could have been completely avoided
Yeah.
if I had a financial foundation that gave me options. And I didn't have that. And I was like, okay, put that on the to-do list, right? Like we need to get that real quick. So that really lit a fire under my butt to go on this journey that's really led me to this place.
Kind of funny how those things, like those things in life are usually seem awful at the time, but they're this catapult to get you where you are.
Yeah,
They're miserable at the time, but then you look back, you're like, oh, all right, now I get it. I get it. I understand why that
totally.
happened. Yeah.
Totally.
All right. So let's talk agency a little bit. Tell me why an agency? Why are you not just Louisa?
I love this question. So when I started my business, I was doing one-to-one finance coaching and consulting, and I was doing it all locally. So I was traveling to people's offices, to people's living rooms, talking with them, helping them with their finances. And right before the pandemic hit, I had this thought. I was like, this is not sustainable. I can't keep going around to people. Like, there's only one of me. I can only go so many places. How do I scale this? And so I actually, right before everything shut down for the pandemic, decided to take, I know this
Oh
is
my
wild, right?
goodness.
The like serendipity of this is wild, but decided to take a course that helps you transition, your business into the online world. Because as we know, there are lots of
Amazing.
different rules, strategies, tactics, things that you need to learn about when you run a business, a virtual business. And I thought that that would enable me to reach more people throughout the country. And so started doing that, invested in that class, started doing more coaching online, and then realized like, I have a cap on hours. This is really depleting. Holding space for people is wonderful, but I'm not one of those people who then walks away and feels energized by it. I walk away and feel completely depleted.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
was like, this is not scalable either, right? So I just kept like hitting the ceiling on scalability, on my time, on those resources required to deliver these services. And then I was like, I know, I'll do a membership. So I launched this wonderful membership, had like 30 people join. And that was really taxing because it was just me showing up, delivering content, coming up with ways to engage the community. I was like, I got to shut this down. That's when I made the pivot to the Done For You service agency, because I realized that through all of those conversations, my membership, everything, what was really missing was somebody to do the thing. And I'm one of those people who's like, okay, all right, just give it to me. Just give it to me. I'll do it. Like, just hand it over. Like, you're messing it up. Let me do it. So I was
Yeah.
like, let me just go with that and take that to the nth. And that really looks like an agency model. So that was my windy road.
I think that, no, I love that you're telling everyone about the windy road, because I think sometimes, especially on social, it seems like, oh, well, we have agencies and we're successful and that's good. But like getting here is never a straight line, right? Like figuring it out. You were the second person in 2 days that said, I tried a course, I tried this, I tried that. And now I'm in an agency. Like that's, you kind of have to try. And then I've had other people tell me like, I tried an agency and that wasn't for me. And then I went to a course and then I went, like kind of figuring out what you want to do, because you can't always figure out what you want to do from the outside.
Yeah, well, and I think I think the first step for anyone in a similar position to us is like proving to yourself that you can make money. Like first you have
Yeah.
to prove that you can make money yourself, deliver your product or service, you can make it
Mm-hmm.
reliably, consistently, you know how to like get in front of people, make a sale, deliver your product, right? Now the question I'm asking myself as my agency is evolving is, how do I want to make money? I know that I can make money, right? But how do I want to continue to make money into the future? And I feel like day over day, month over month, you have to like consistently decide to keep going, right? Like you have to very consciously
Yes.
and intentionally decide, like, yep, I'm going to do this today. Yep, I'm going to keep going. Yep, I'm going to hire that person. Yep, I'm going to build. So you're constantly having to like say yes to your business. And the second it feels hard to say yes to your business, I think you really owe it to yourself to sit down and go, like, what's happening? Why am I not loving this? Why isn't this feeling right? Because it is a marathon. It is. There's no end. So every day, if you feel good, deciding to keep going, is a good day. And then the second it doesn't feel right, I really think that like you've got to ask yourself some really difficult questions. So I've been asking myself some difficult questions, and I keep deciding, yes, this is right. This is right. Yep, 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 yep.
Yeah. That all, like I hear from so many people, like they think a business is a destination. Like, oh, I'm going to get clients and then it's going to be a paycheck and then that's it. And that's not how it works. Or they think I'm doing something wrong if things change. No, the world changes, life changes, business changes. Like I am rebuilding a whole bunch of stuff in my business. I'm almost 6.5 years in, and I'm rebuilding a ton of stuff right now. It's terrifying. It's a lot of work. It's never really like coasting through. Or even if you build that like miraculous passive income business that only exists in myth and legends, there's like unicorns running through it. You get that like passive income thing and it's just giving you paychecks every day. But even if that happens, which it doesn't, you still have to like get to a place where the market changes. Like all of a sudden Facebook ads changed, or launching is changing, or just different things are changing. It's not the same. So you have to adapt. And I think that for people that are really entrepreneurial, that is exciting. I am thrilled about it. Am I terrified? Absolutely. Most of the time, I want to throw up. But It's so friggin' exciting, right? Like I've had the same clients for forever, for a long time listeners, or at least the last 6 months. They know that a large client of mine got bought. I'm phasing out. It's a whole big change. It's a terrifying, yeah, but it's so exciting. Like, what am I going to get to do? What are all the things I'm going to have time for? What am I going to build now? We have this pilot program going. But you know what I mean? Like all that stuff. And that is super exciting. And I feel like a lot of people that got into COVID or into business during COVID, they were looking for a different kind of paycheck, not a business. And when you get there and all of a sudden you have to have those hard conversations with yourself and you're like, I don't really like being in business. And that's okay. Like you cannot, if this isn't for you, it's totally cool because you are having to go through those iterations and it's constantly moving and it's scary and you have to have those hard conversations, you know?
Yeah, well, and I think you're so right. And I was having this conversation the other day where I was like, we're at a point where, the businesses that sort of made it through or coasted through, or the business owners who were inspired by what was happening during the pandemic, whether it was like, this crazy, awesome evolution of coaching and sort of seeing what's possible when people went that direction, people who were really successful in their corporate lives, sort of becoming their own bosses and coaching others in how to be successful at X, Y, and Z. Like that took off. But now we're going to really find out who the true entrepreneurs are, because as the market shifts and sort of stress tests your business, stress tests the business owner, right? Like there are going to be two kinds of people. The kind of person you described, which is I can totally relate to that, the excitement of opportunity and freshness and the evolution of just, how this journey works, and that being exciting, versus the person who was riding a market trend and now all of a sudden is confronted with the hard truth that, purses are not, raising your prices and double your prices and charging your worth and all of that does not a sound business make necessarily. And so I think that there are going to be people who are starting to question themselves and find themselves, scrolling through Indeed a bit more to think like, what, to your point, I really do want a consistent paycheck. Maybe I just want it to be bigger, or maybe I wanted to work remote. So it was a great shakeup. And I also think I think everybody at some point, if you have a curiosity within you to become an entrepreneur or be a self-employed person or freelancer or business owner, like I think it's such a wonderful thing for people to do, to try, to see what it really entails and requires, because you're gonna go on a journey of self-exploration and improvement by default. If you are running your own show, right? And like, we don't talk about that, but like, it's true.
Yeah, you will never go through more like self-help books in your life. Like there is never a time you will never work on yourself more than when you start a business, because there is so much mind fuckery that goes on through everything. There is so much learning you have to do about how to work. Like, how do you get out of bed every day when no one is making you? Like little things like that, like all of that stuff. There's a bookshelf full of books over here about it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what you go on this journey of discovery, not just because of the business owner, but like totally who you are as a person, especially in those times when it's really rough. I'm hearing a lot about recession talk right now, which it's in the ether, really. You can argue about all the sides of it and all that kind of stuff. But what I hear from the entrepreneurs that I'm talking, them hearing speak on the podcast and all that, they are very much, when you're an entrepreneur, a recession is a time to invest. A recession is a time to get going. That is when you buy. That is when you invent. That is when you get going. And that has been my favorite thing. I think I'm not listening to the news because the news sucks. I'm listening to like these entrepreneur podcasts. Brooke Castillo just did a big one about it. There's a bunch of them that are just saying like, this is our time to get going. These are our opportunities. And it's a great reminder that these are opportunities. Like, let's go figure something out. Let's do something fun.
Yeah. And again, like it's a certain kind of person who thrives in times of uncertainty. Right. And like as an agency owner, I'll say too, speaking specifically to agency owners, you're hiring contractors, you're hiring employees. That's the nature of agency work, right? You're providing different services. And so you need a team of people to help you deliver those services. And so you'll get a lot of hiring, firing, people shifting. Like that's something that I've really experienced over the last year, is like this 3 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of thing, because my team is just shifting, sort of figuring out who goes where, making the switch from, the balance of contractor employees, and sort of realizing that I'm more onto having employees and building a team and building out that culture and having that consistency. And I just feel like, you really have to, again, decide every day that that's the direction you want to go. And, for agency owners in general, that never ends, right? Like that never ends. There's never a moment where you're like, I have my team, I have all the clients I'm going to have forever.
It's perfect.
Everything's perfect. There may be fleeting, moments like that, which you should relish, right? Every time I have a feeling like that, or I have a really good day, I Slack my team and I say, today was a really good day. Here's why. Like, I saw this come through. We did this for a client. I got this feedback. I spent my time doing this. I saw that you did that. Like, I try to take those moments and really make sure that everybody knows, like, this is what success looks like, because they're fleeting. And so I want to be able to go back and remember what that day looked like, because the team will shift and our clients will shift, but that feeling is what we're constantly seeking, not the 7-figure agency. It's that feeling of, this is working, this feels successful, this feels good.
I love that, because I suck at doing that. I get told this all the time. I hit a milestone, my best friend's like, and you didn't hit like 100 grand more, or like, no matter, it's never good enough in my head. I never stop to celebrate. And I'm trying my best to do that more, because everyone tells me I suck at it. So yeah, like I love that idea of like putting it in Slack, because you could have just like a whole record of it and flip back there and be like, oh, look at all the stuff we've done. Like, that's amazing. And I feel like that's so great for like agency based, especially with teams, having that culture of like celebrating all those wins and knowing that they're part of that team that has accomplished this really cool thing. I love that.
Yeah. Our weekly wins channel in Slack is our most like popular channel.
All right, I'm writing this
So
down.
Every week.
Love this.
You'll take this, whoever you are out there, take this idea. So we have a weekly wins channel in Slack, and I set up a recurring reminder for like Thursdays at 1 p.m. or something, because our work week is heaviest Monday through Thursday, where it just sends out a notification to the entire channel. It's time to celebrate, drop anything that, made you feel good, milestones, goals, personal, business, it doesn't matter. We want to celebrate it with you. So people flood that channel with pictures and my kids and this client and this work felt good and da 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 da. And so anytime I'm ever like, Luisa, is this working? Like, are we doing this? Do we want to keep doing this? I go back to that weekly wins channel and I just look at the emojis and the pictures and the support and the positivity. And it's like, yes, of course this is working. Like, more of this. Let's keep going. So steal that idea. It's a good one.
I love this, because I am always looking for ways, especially when you're online, you have a team, looking for ways to like, have that culture, right? Because a lot of the people on my team don't work together very often. They are handling a client, they're handling a client. This one's working on my stuff, whatever. We're not doing a lot of projects together. So they all know each other from, seeing each other on there. We had a holiday party last year where they got to see each other's face, for the first time, but it's not the same as like checking in and hanging out and like, so I love that.
Well, and so on that point, because I think this is really important, because I know there are a lot of virtual agencies out there, and this is something that comes up for people, I'm sure. But what really, I think, brings my team culture together is this idea of us having a shared mission. This idea of us all wanting to support women-owned businesses because we are women business owners. This idea of us wanting accounting work to matter because we know it does. And so seeing that it does, seeing when clients feel good or clear or reach their goals and milestones, and sharing that as well. We also have a client wins channel. So any little screenshot or text or message I get, I throw that in there too. Because what's most important, I think, in an agency where you're going to have siloed people doing different things, is that everybody within that agency can take their work and track it back to the bigger mission of the company. And it doesn't have to be this like life-changing mission, right? It could just be like doing good work, building relationships, happy clients. Like, it doesn't need to be saving the world. But I do think that it's really important, and what brings a team together is having a very, very clear mission. Like, we are all together here in this business moving towards this, and our success is, you know, really about whether or not we're moving closer to helping more women achieve financial autonomy. Like that's our mission, is helping more women, you know, business owners achieve financial autonomy by building these like businesses that are bigger than they ever could have imagined, because we make the finance side easier and clearer, the path clearer for them. So even like the bookkeeper who's just categorizing transactions knows that her work is helping that happen, so that the world has more women, like you said, with economic power, who are, you know, creating these awesome products and building these services and these businesses that really do give back and have an impact.
I love all of this because a lot of people come to me and they're like, they have problems with the team, right? And they have turnover and they always think they need to pay people more. And I was like, a lot of people want to belong to something that matters. If you get paid to build a thing and then throw it in the trash, your brain will be like, why the hell am I doing this? Even if you get paid to do that, people want to have things, do work that matters. And I think that bringing that back around to that mission that you have and showing them that they are the part in this whole puzzle instead of just somebody typing in numbers, like they know they're building something. And that I think is a huge draw for anybody as for their own work. You know what I mean? So being able to tie that into your agency, I think is fantastic. And then just this, like they're simple Slack channels, right? But like being able to see that and show all of that coming together, that is the stuff people want to see for.
Totally. And because of that, I've attracted these really incredible experts, these people who are really good at what they do. And they're also really excited to show up, to do more than maybe I'm even asking them to do, because if they're not doing it for me and they're not doing it for the paycheck, they're doing it to contribute to this thing that's bigger than all of us.
Yeah.
And you're right, at the end of the day, as human beings, like that's all we want to do, is really be a part of something that's bigger than us, you know, because we are. So like if our everyday reflects that, great. Every day I'm going to be excited to show up and do the work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we've all had those jobs where like, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I had a client that is, we were talking about this yesterday, and I hope I didn't just tell this whole story on the podcast yesterday, but it was one of those things where like I would show up and we would have a plan and I would build the thing. I'd build the systems, I'd do the thing. And then 3 months later, the plan would change completely. And I literally take everything I did and just throw it in the trash. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, I got to get out of here, because I want the work. I want to accomplish something. I want it to mean something. I want to have, you know, like, and I parted ways. I couldn't do it. It was like, the money wasn't the thing. Yes, we all want to be paid, and, you know, kids like to eat and all that, but like, they really eat a lot all the time, like every day. But you know what I mean? Like that isn't the thing. I think a lot of us would take a lot less to have more meaning.
Well, and to your point too, as a virtual team, if you are an agency owner who's running a virtual team, I don't care if you have contractors or employees. My contractors are as devoted as my employees. And I know that that's tough, because we're like, well, we can only ask so much and they have all these clients that they're serving. But if you're the client with the most like gravitas, they will be excited to show up for you, and they will raise the bar on their standards of expectations for clients that they work with. And I think that that raises the bar for everybody.
Yes, I try my best to be their favorite client.
Yeah.
I want them to know I love them. I'm going to support them if they need anything in their own businesses, all that kind of stuff. I want to be their favorite client. Yes, because and I want to also support them so that they know that this is the way you should be treated, because we've all had clients who treated us like crap. And in the beginning, sometimes we don't know any better, or we need the cash and we just have to deal with it. And then if I can show them that we can get treated better, then they will know that they're not going to work with those other crappy people anymore. Right. I love that. Yes. Raising all
and
those.
Everybody who works with you on your team is an ambassador of your brand, right?
Oh, yes.
Every single person, like they're seeing the inner workings of your business. So if there's anybody who anyone will trust to reflect back whether or not your brand, your service is worth a shit, it's the people who work in your business, who work with you, who work with your team, who see the products and services that you deliver, who understand what your values are, what your mission is, how you're tracking against that, whether you're all talk or your words match your actions. And so we've also got to think about contractors that way. I think like they're brand ambassadors. They will go
Yes.
out there and talk to people in their world. Every single human I come in contact with is a brand ambassador, a potential brand ambassador for me. And so that's how I operate. But especially with your internal team, with people where there's a financial exchange and expectations, I think that's as important a relationship as your client relationships.
Yeah. I got to tell you, like my team has been, I have a lot of long-term people on my team. We all work together. I love them to death. Like there's not a ton of turnover. And just from a pure like profit standpoint, like a profit, like money, having to hire people and train them over and over again because they leave, it's an enormous time suck. It takes an enormous amount of time, brain power, my personal time to find what we need to hire for, then hire the person, then train them, then all of that stuff. And yes, I can preach systems all day, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't take any time to hire someone now. You know what I mean? And then if they leave because they don't like it here, that is it's such a waste of money and time when you could just take care of the people you have, give them really great expectations so they know what's expected of them. They know what's going on, and then they can do great work. And then you're all happy. You don't have to keep doing this every month.
Exactly. And some, team members will have to go, and that's just the nature of work sometimes. I've had to deal with that a lot over the past year. But how I approach that is there's this letting go as the agency owner where, we have set up a culture where people document their work, record videos, documenting their processes. I invest in operations heavily so that I have systems and, a way for anybody who comes into my business to find their way around and be oriented and understand how internal communications work. Like I've done all of that very deliberately because I want my agency to be an easy place to work. And I think that has really served us because I've had contractors go for personal reasons and then come back and they already know my business and they can jump right in and we have mutual respect and they will go above and beyond. Not for me, again, not for me. It's not about me. It's going above and beyond for the mission, which to do good work for our clients. Because that feels good. It feels good to do good work, right? It feels good for people to go, oh my gosh, that was incredible. Thank you so much. You changed my life. Like if I can hear that every day, I'd be like, good job, Luisa, like check mark, and that's really the measure of success. And so it shifts also what you're investing in. I don't have, a lot invested in marketing and sales gen. Like or marketing in lead generation and sales. I just handle all of that because I'm like, I need to make sure my house is ready for guests. That's really where my head is. And then I can move to the place where, okay, we're marketing to pull more people in because I know we're ready. Like the bed is made, candles are lit, come on in. So it's just a different perspective instead of like getting a bunch of clients and being like, oh shit, I need to make sure my house is clean. That doesn't work. At least it doesn't work.
Oh my
for
God.
me.
I literally just this week's podcast is like, you can't scale a broken business. Like the whole idea of everyone thinks lead gen is the only thing you need. And I'm like, yeah. And then you get 30 people that come out the door and they give you your credit card and everything is a disaster. Everyone badmouths you. And yeah. Love that. Well, and like, I love, of course, I love hearing that you have like systems and videos and things like that because, that's my thing. But, how do you set up your business? Like, how do you onboard people? How do you bring people in? How do you hire people? Like, do you have those systems? Just like, are you well-oiled machine at this point? Are you still figuring that out?
So we've had different iterations of that. So I've always prioritized it. So yeah, we have a way that we bring people in. We have a process documented. We use ClickUp for all managing our business, really. And so we have a process for getting people set up on the tools. My VA helps to make sure that all happens appropriately. There's a lot, especially in the world of finance, of like access and passwords and documentation and contracts and making sure everything is cool and secure. And so I have support to help us make sure that that happens appropriately, that access makes sense. I mean, we have access to people's bank accounts and things like that. So like
Yeah.
we have to have all of that on lock, honestly. Like
Yeah.
maybe in other types of businesses where you're not dealing with so much sensitive, financial information, you can be a little bit more willy-nilly in the beginning, but really from the beginning we had to be very, very clear on how that was going to work. So we do have a process. We have a client journey. We have a client journey. We have a team journey that I'm working to refine right now with my director of operations, Rachel. So that's really what we're working on right now, is just what that process looks like and getting a system in place so that that process is repeatable, by our VA. So it doesn't take a lot of brain power. We're not reinventing the wheel every single time we bring somebody new on. We're really documenting everything as we go. So we always have some draft or some version of the experience that we can refine and optimize over time.
All right. So tell me, I love all of that, by the way. And Rachel, I'm sure, is doing a fantastic job. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. So tell me about what you do for clients. I know, like we talked about a little bit, like you help them with their finances, but what does that mean? And like, what kind of things do you run into? I feel like there's certain things you probably run into all the time. And I would love to know it too, because I'm getting to a place where, though I have different questions than I did 2 years ago, like S
Totally.
corps and tax, like all these kind of things. So how are you helping them, and what are the things that are coming up?
Yeah. So how we help them is we have sort of the core of our services is really excellent bookkeeping and accounting. So I always say that's sort of like the foundation. So if you're not properly, accurately, and in a timely way accounting for all of the cash that comes in, through, and out of your business, that's step number one. Like without that, I can't help you on the tax front, financial advising, strategy, any of that. So that's really the core of our services, is helping to get people's books accurate, up to date, and optimized for visibility. So that's our core service. From there, of course, there's all of the tax piece, which is compliance. So just knowing, like if you're in California, for example, do you have a city tax, a state tax, a county tax, a payroll tax, the whole shebang. There are lots of different laws that are really difficult. This comes up a lot for clients. It's just difficult to navigate. I feel like a lot of clients come to us and they're like, I just want to do the right thing. Can you tell me
Yeah.
when this is due, what it is, how much to pay, who I pay it to, do I need a voucher, just tell me what to do. And so when it comes to tax compliance, that's exactly what we do. We tell our clients, these are your tax liabilities. We do an assessment, and then we help them monitor what they're required to report on and what payments they're required to make throughout the year. So that's a big piece that, if you're the CEO of your company at that 250K plus mark, there's likely no one else doing that for you, right? Like your tax accountant who files your taxes every year isn't going to take the time to understand what your other tax liabilities are and plot a path forward for you, right? They're not even going to use creativity necessarily to think about what tax credits or you may qualify for, or different tax strategies you may employ related to your retirement contributions, et cetera, right? There's a whole web of strategy and being really proactive and intentional with your money that is just the tax piece, right? So accurate accounting informs the tax piece. We help with compliance. And then there's also another thing that people struggle with, is having visibility in their business. So it's like, cool, I look at my profit and loss report maybe every month and I have an idea of how my business is performing, but that information isn't necessarily that helpful in telling you what to expect over the next 6 to 12 months, right?
Yes.
So this is a big missing piece
Yeah.
for people who have like a bookkeeper that they work with, maybe an accountant that they work with for annual tax filing. So what we do is we come in and we sort of connect the dots from where you are to where you want to be by running a cash flow projection that really gives you the insight you need to make the business decisions today that are going to impact your cash and bottom line down the road. And that's really like such a huge missing piece. And it's a skill and it's a tool that business owners need that I feel like is just really missing for business owners who are like, I'm great at selling, I'm bringing in all this money, but like, how do I decide who to hire and how much to pay them and when to hire them and what I should invest in? And I hired this marketing and they're just sort of like making these decisions and then freaking out because they
Yeah.
see that they're making these investments and watching maybe their cash balances go down or their debt increase with no visibility into what their expectations standards should be for 6 to 12 months from now when these investments should pay off, right? So they're
Hmm.
not holding themselves accountable to, well, I'm going to make this investment and I have 6 months for it to, produce this return, for example, and track and check in, actually be like, okay, it's 6 months from now from then, like, has this given me a return or not? We're not doing that. We're not, a lot of business owners that come to us aren't giving themselves that accountability and that check and balance because it's just them.
Yeah.
So that's really what we do is we handle compliance, we provide accountability and visibility for business owners in scaling agencies and services.
I love that. And I think that last missing piece is so vitally important. Yeah. The bookkeeping. Yeah. All of that. Taxes, super hard. Like all of them are very hard. And we need help. Right. And as my business has grown, I have realized like the hole is there. I mean, I'm a numbers person in the fact that I like numbers, but I wasn't an accountant. I was on Wall Street. Like I was trading numbers. You know what I mean? Like it was a different skill. I do not have those kind of forecasting skills that I wish I had.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I think, well, I can do this stuff myself because I know numbers more than most business owners, right? But I still fall down in those ways. Like, and especially if you're rebuilding a business, like the next 6 months are going to look so different than the last 6 months. So trying to look at it and go, well, we had this trailing 6 or trailing 12, whatever it was. Or even worse, some people are like, well, this is what I did in 2021. I'm like, that was like 10 years ago. Like in online days, like 2021 was 10 years ago. Like in Wall Street, we had like the trailing 12, the last 12 months of revenue. It was how you got contracts and stuff as a broker. Like what was your last 12 months?
Sure.
But even the last 6 months for me is going to be so different than next year. Like next year is going to look so different. And that is the kind of stuff, how to know what is going to happen. What are we going to plan for? If we know that everything is going to blow up or there's going to be a recession or whatever the thing is, right? How are we going to plan for that? And how are we going to do things now so that in 6 months we're not completely screwed?
Right. Well, and it gives you agency over, not, no pun intended, but it gives you agency, right? Because a lot of people are like, I have no idea what my sales are going to be like 3 months from now. I'm like, well, if you don't, you can be damn well sure no one else does.
Yep.
So you better decide what your sales are going to be, right? And go for it and have a strategy.
And then know what to do to get there.
Exactly. And know what it will cost you, know what investments you need to make, plot those where they go in a projection and understand what your forecasted cash and revenue and profitability looks like.
Yeah, and I think so many people are like, I don't want to spend any money. It's any money, right? Instead of, or I find this a lot in agency talk, is that this is the way you build an agency. You do this, you make this hire, blah, 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 and you will get here. Like it's like some formula that everyone will follow. Yeah. It'll be great. But I feel like I have made specific decisions to not grow as much as fast, maybe because I wanted to spend more time at home with my son, or I wanted to keep some work. I didn't give all the work away. Like some people preach, like, oh, you're not an agency owner if you don't give it all away. Like, but I kept that because it was extremely profitable and I could keep that cash in and then take that cash and pay for coaching or pay for infrastructure or pay for whatever, pay for this pretty little monitor I'm looking at right now. You know what I mean? Like I made those kind of decisions. And I think that kind of decision-making is what makes you so valuable, is helping people to see what they want to do for the goals that they have, instead of just, this is the thing that they said I should do. I have like, I get on calls with people and they tell me how an agency should be built. They don't have an agency yet, but they've heard how it should be built. And this is what it's supposed to be. And I'm like, but what if that's not what you want? Right? So like making those conscious decisions to like, pick this, do that, pick this, that I think is so valuable.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of the clients who come to us, they're visual people. They need to be able to see sort of, what the impact is. They need to be able to yeah, just have a perspective of their business that puts them up here, because another problem or challenge that we have is that we're so close to our businesses. They're like right here, like in front of the face, just like every day. And so it's really hard to see the bigger picture when that's your relationship with your business. And so to have somebody else come in and sort of help you pull back and get more perspective, and then be held accountable to the goals that you have, not to what success is defined from an agency perspective or the outside world, but literally to be held accountable to your own vision and goals for your business. It's like coaching on steroids, because a coach isn't going to come in and also handle your accounting and your bookkeeping and your tax compliance. So to me, I'm like, it's like I'm like, it's a no-brainer to work with a service provider that can sort of combine both worlds. And so part of our next challenge is articulating that value, because a lot of people who I talk to are very concerned about making the investment. And I'm like, I need to get better at explaining how this will change your life in ways that you can't even imagine.
And how your life will look in 6 months if you don't do this.
Yeah.
I always feel like when you're taking the Series 7, which is the license you have to get to trade stocks on Wall Street. There's a whole thing. There's like, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of different kind of costs. And one of them is opportunity cost. And that was the only one that ever stuck in my head. It was like you didn't choose this. You chose A instead of B. What is that cost going to be now if B goes up and A doesn't? Or you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And I feel like that is very much like you are an opportunity cost thing, right? Like you are like, if you do not hire Louisa, your business is going to be a mess in 6 months. Right? But if you do, then it can be great. Like, like in my head, that's what I think of it as.
Well, there's a lot of stuckness when we don't invest, when we're afraid to, when we operate out of fear, really, of losing what we have. There's a lot of stuckness. And my philosophy on life is like, the clock is ticking too fast for me to feel stuck. I want things that propel me forward, that help me see new opportunities, that help me live life the way that I want to its fullest. I don't want to feel stuck. So I only want to work with people who have that same desire within them, like ambitious people who are like, I don't want to stay stuck. I'm willing to invest in myself and my business, and to be able to move forward into this fuller version. Like, I don't want to spend my day convincing people on sales calls that they're worth making an investment in themselves. That's not where my energy is. I think that there are lots of resources if you're in that mindset and you're stuck there. But once you turn over and you're like, wait a minute, like I see this bigger picture for myself, for my business, holy shit, I need help, or holy shit, like what do I do next? Or that's the person that I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like, you're ready to go. Like, let's do this. And I learned that about myself, because I want to help everybody. And when you're starting out, you're like, I know so many things. I can help you. I can help you. I can help you. I can help you.
Yep.
And it's like, that's just such a big disservice to really how big I can go, to keep myself small and dispersed instead of focused and, with more magnitude.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of those things, like you can't see it sometimes when you're in it. It's like that terrible boyfriend you had that years later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? And everyone is like, yeah, we all tried to tell you. But like, you know what I mean? Like, you need to see it for yourself sometimes. And then you're ready to get a different boyfriend, or, you have to be in it. You have to want it. You, Louisa, cannot want it more than the client wants it.
Kelly, it's so wild that you just said that, because that's literally what the voice that's been going through my mind as I'm having, because we're in a period of having like lots of sales calls, and we're closing our doors on November 18th. And it's like, so we can get ready for the end of the year and build things out and da, 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 da. And so I've been talking to a lot of people, and that's literally what goes through my head is like, I'm not a pushy salesperson, but it's not because I don't want the sale. It's not because I'm lazy. It's because I can't want it more than these people want it. Which is just like, it's an evolution in my thinking, because 3 to 4 months ago, I was like, oh, I'll just help you. Like, let me just do it. It's okay. I'll want it more than you until you want it, that kind of thing. And it's like, that wasn't working too well,
I've been there. Yeah. I've been like, let me run this thing better. Let me do these things. nah, I don't really care. And I didn't believe them. I thought they care. They just have it. They don't understand how cool it could be. And then I do things and they didn't care and they just mess with me. I'm like, why am I here? You can't want your business more than me. Right. I mean, I can't want it. I have to want my business. I have to be the propulsion. I don't know. That's not the word I was looking for, but like whatever, the jet propulsion. Let's go with that. To move this forward, and then everyone can help, but like I have to want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
It's so true.
Today.
I love your analogies. They're great.
This is how I explain things to clients. I make analogies. I'm really good with sports analogies sometimes because that's very helpful. You spend a long time on Wall Street, you get good at these things. You know how to talk to boys. That was when I first started in the online world. I was like, well, I know how to talk to boys who don't listen. Right. So I was like, that should be my ideal client. And then I worked with some and then I was like, this isn't any fun. Boys that do listen, great. Boys that don't listen, like I had a whole career of that. Like I don't need to keep doing this. So,
yep.
Okay. So I have we are hitting the top of the hour, so I don't want to keep you. Where can everyone find you so that they can go hire you before November 18th so that their whole business is way better in the next 6 months?
I love you. So you can find me at www. I love giving that preface because it's so old school.
You're like my grandmother.
We don't need to say that anymore, right? But at peoplefirstfinance.com. And then I am really active on Instagram. So you can find me there at peoplefirstfinance. And yeah, it's just a really good time of year. I'll give this plug in PSA. I don't know when this episode is gonna air, but getting your act together before the end of the year, before tax season, is advisable because the really, really best accountants and bookkeepers shut their doors and don't take on new clients after a certain point. So if you want to get in with those folks, now's the time. The clock is ticking.
And if you need to do something like get expenses for write-offs or things like that, you need to do it before the end of the year. Don't come to Luisa March 31st and say, I need to get all these taxes off my plate. She can do nothing then. Yeah, throw something in an IRA, but that's about it. Like, I don't think that works. But I think
we didn't even get into like S corps and all that stuff.
We didn't even get there. We're you're gonna have to come back like a Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. Like once a month, we'll come in. We'll have a little financial talk from Luisa, so she can explain what the hell's going on in the world.
Sold. I love it.
All right, well, I will put everything in the show notes so you guys can find Luisa. And dude, so awesome having you here. Thank you so much. This was a fantastic conversation. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Awesome, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you have an agency or want to create one, come join my Facebook community, Get Your Agency Together, where we talk all the things growing and scaling your agency. For show notes and more info on all the things, head over to reynoldsobm.com.